Welcome to the complete guide to Warframe. Whether you're a noob, a pro, or a veteran, there'll be something in here for you. We'll be going through every single facet of this game that I can think of. I've got a whole little list here, so we're just going to hop right in after I tell you this. At 3,000 subs, or when I get monetized, which there's a chance that that happens after this video, depending on how well it performs. So, like, subscribe, do all that jazz. Or when I reach 3,000 subs, I will be doing a 24-hour survival, and this will probably be my kit after I get the Incarnon for the Vasto Prime, which means that I unfortunately have to do more Duveri, which I'm really not looking forward to, but it's really not that difficult, and I get some more resources while I'm on the way, which we'll get to that later. So, we get 24-hour survival when I get monetized or 3,000 subs, so don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy, leave suggestions for new videos, and also I want to just say I will not be an exclusive Warframe YouTuber. So if you're only here for Warframe, hey, I'll upload Warframe still. However, it's not the only thing I upload. So with that being said, let's hop right in to where we all begin. The first 3 Warframes. You get 3 Warframes to select from at the very beginning of the game. You have Mag, who is your caster type. So I say she's a caster type because she is the most ability based out of all the new Warframes, or the 3 Warframes that you can select from. She has Crush, which is her 4, which essentially just does a bunch of magnetized damage or magnetic damage and gives you some shields. You have Polarize, which strips armor and shields. You have Magnetize, which is, you shoot into the bubble, bullets go into the bubble, kill things that are within the bubble. It's a bubble ability. A bubble ability. And then you have Pool, which is exactly what it sounds like. You pull enemies using magnetic. And then nearby items gravitate towards Mag for easy collection, being essentially a built-in vacuum, which we'll get into that later with the modding and, going a little more in depth with modding. You also have Bolt. Bolt is another caster-esque Warframe, but a little bit less caster-esque, as 2 of his abilities don't really deal damage. One of his is a, electric shield that blocks projectiles and also lets you deal extra electric damage if you shoot through the shield. All right, let's be specific here. His 4 is one of those casting-esque abilities where you discharge a bunch of electricity and it bounces between enemies and deals a bunch of damage. It's really good for Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, which we will once again get into later. Speed, it's speed. You get extra speed. I don't know what to tell you here. You get speed, you get reload speed, and you get melee speed. Shock, which is, again, like Mag's Pool, it's just basic boop. You become Palpatine. You get unlimited power. And then his passive is grounded movement, generates electrical charge, damage per meter. That is unleashed for the next attack. Caps out at, I believe, 1,000 damage. And then the final one, which most people choose, is Excalibur. Excalibur is not even a caster type, frankly. Excalibur deals 10% increased damage and attacks 10% faster when wielding swords. His 4 is Exalted Blade. It's think of the Master Sword at max HP in Legend of Zelda. You get that. Radial Javelin, shoot out a bunch of spikes using your sword. Radial Blind, shine your sword into the sky and blind people. Slash Dash, move at a rate to slash people. I'm not a fan of Excalibur. It's all of his abilities basically are just swords. But with that being said, let's get on to modding. And I'm talking basic modding. We'll come back here later for when we have to, essentially. But right now, basic modding, you've got a bunch of different styles of mods, right? You've got your, basic energy, efficiency, range. You get a little more specific versions like ability strength for only one of your abilities, range, and then you have augments, which are essentially mods specific to a Warframe that alters them in some way, like Biting Frost. Frost gains 200% crit chance and crit damage for enemies that are frozen. And Icy Avalanche, which gives him overguard per enemy hit with Avalanche, which is his 4. So that means that you get overguard, which is almost like a third status or a third health bar aside from shield and health, that has its own iframes. It's pretty good. I enjoy it. Now, every Warframe can be built uniquely. Later on, I'll be going over why I have my Frost specifically built like this, and in fact, I'm actually going to take off Combat Discipline and probably throw on something different, like Pistol Amp. I like pistols. I'm not actually going to run Pistol Amp. I'm running on, but you get the point. You can build it however you like. Augment mods are just slightly different. Exos mods are like how do I word this? Niche bonuses, enemy radar, recovery from stagger, slides, you know, squad gains 50% more from auras, you benefit from an additional 15 from auras, that type of deal. They're very niche and they have slightly different use cases. Parkour velocity, extra parkour velocity again, resist knockdown, unequipped plus 10% to bullet jump for 2 seconds, which is really weird. Firewalker is another version of Ice Walker, I believe it's called. Ice Spring. You know, type stuff like that. That's your Exos mods. And then you have, you know, your health, your shield, your armor, your energy, your sprint speed, your duration, your efficiency, your range, and strength. What did I just say? That's a wonderful question. Let's talk about it. So, health is exactly what it sounds like. How much damage can be sustained before you go down. Shield is before health. Think of it like Halo's shield. It recharges after a while, it breaks, you get a little bit of invulnerability, let it recharge, you'll be fine. Armor is damage resistance towards your health, not your shield. And I also want to add that with shields, if you take toxin damage, it goes straight through your shield and will still kill you. If you are immune to status effects, you're safe from that. Energy is how much energy you have to, you know, pop your abilities, which is pretty important when your Warframe wants to use 115 energy, but only has a max of 427. Sprint speed is sprint speed. I mean, that one's pretty self-explanatory. How fast you move while sprinting. I don't know what to tell you here. I can't get more specific with that one. Hate to tell you. Duration is duration of abilities. Now, there's two ways that we can go over this, and we will be going over it with Valkyr to show it off. However, right now, duration modifies the duration of Warframe abilities and the energy cost of toggled abilities, which is why I said Valkyr, because she has a toggled ability. And you can see how its stats are affected, like my Icy Avalanche. I have 100% duration, so I have 8-second freeze duration. You got 85% efficiency, so I have, you know, 15% more energy drain, so it's 115. I love how nice and neat the Avalanche numbers come out to be. It's fantastic. I have 175% range, so my radius is 26.25. That is not as clean of a number, but you get the point. And then I have 181% strength, but that overguard and overguard cap is way higher than 181%. That's like 270 or 270. That's a wonderful question. Why is it at 270? Well, that's because Precision Intensify is not built into that number. So that was a wonderful question. Precision Intensify happens behind this number, and it does go into effect, and you will see it represented when you look at the number on your 4. However, it will not tell you it, which is okay. So, what that leads us to is different types of Warframes. So we're going to go over the different archetypes, right? After showing off Valkyr and how I have 149% duration, 175% efficiency, and so my Hysteria has negligible energy drain per second. That is only plausible because I have so much efficiency and duration, because that's how I've decided to have my Valkyr built. And that's okay. If that's how you want to build her, that's how you want to build her. If you want to build her for more energy, or less energy but more damage, go for it. She's your character, not mine. Do what you want. But with that being said, the different Warframe archetypes. So I'm going to try and generalize it for the newer players. If you're an experienced player, you probably already know all this stuff, let's be honest here. You've got your defense frames like Frost, you've got Vauban. Yes, I'm considering Vauban a defense frame. You've got Gara, who's somewhere in here. I really should just be sorting these by name so it's easier to find these guys. Gara, Frost, Bobbin, who are good crowd control and defense frames, right? They all have something good with defense, right? Bobbin has a Vortex and he has a Bastille that'll stun enemies and make them where they can't move. Frost has his Snow Globe. Gara has Mass Vitrify. You know, they're all really good in that nature. Then you have your DPS support type frames, which are Citrine, Dante. DPS supports don't really exist in this game. Why did I say DPS supports? What am I? Am I stupid? I think I'm stupid. Protea, Octavia, never mind. Saren's arguably a DPS support. My Frost is arguably a DPS support. You have, you know, your pure supports like Trinity, who should be down here somewhere. You've got Wisp, who's really good support, but is able to deal some damage. And then you have your number 4 is all I have. Titania. Where is she? Mesa. Excalibur. And then there's a few more. There's a few more that are just number 4 and then move on. Baruch, who I accidentally sold the prime of and I'm really upset about. And then you have niche characters who are like, well, this doesn't fit into any archetype. Ureli. She has a K-Drive that she rides on. Zephyr's a very air-based Warframe. Zaku has an ability that depletes all of his duration, so he doesn't actually drain any duration from his abilities. You know, Corvex is a good crowd control. Revenant is literally just tank Incarnon, and that's literally all he has going for him. That is it. That is it. That is the only thing Revenant has going for him, is he can tank. But you have those different archetypes. So what I would recommend doing is if you have a specific archetype in these types of games that you like playing, select that type of Warframe. Like, I love me some crowd control tanks, and that's exactly what Frost is. But with that being said, let's move on to our next subject, and that is something that is personal to me, and I believe everybody should listen to, but that doesn't mean what they do, and that's don't listen to meta. But why isn't meta good? One, it's a PvE game. There is no meta, all right? This isn't PvP, it's PvE. Even though there is PvP, all right, there is no meta. 2, if you look at the meta builds on, say, Overframe, right? Let's use my Bolt War Prime here. You look at this, and you're a new player, all right? Experienced players, again, this isn't really for you, but new players, you don't understand this. Why is there purple mod? What is that arcane up there with primary frostbite? What's vigilante supplies do? Why are you not running viral slash? That's what everybody else says to do. Wait a minute, everybody says that if you have an arcane, you shouldn't run Serration because you don't need that damage. Exactly. That's why you don't listen to meta. I recommend listening to meta about when you get Steel Path unlocked. Why is that? Let me explain. You will be understanding modding much better if you end up doing it that way. If you just, thug it out for a while, essentially, and learn modding to a degree while you're trying to unlock Steel Path, then you can go look at the meta builds, because then you'll be able to understand it a little more. Warframe is a very deep game, and you need to get your toes wet before you jump into the fucking deep end. Don't just jump into the deep end of Warframe. If you do that, you will get lost and you will not know what you were doing, which is why this video exists, is to help people be guided through Warframe reasonably without really spoiling anything. Of course, there's going to be spoilers for, the Second Dream and technically Duvirian, the new war, and if you know what it is, you know what it is, and I'll bring it up once we reach there as well, so you can go skip to the next section. In fact, go look at the chapters. If you see the word Tenno, skip it. Got it? Got it. So, I run Serration because primary frostbite doesn't give me damage. It gives me crit damage and multi-shot, which is why it's different. But with that being said, weapon modding is sort of unique compared to Warframe modding. How? Well, you're working with guns instead of, abilities and whatnot, and you're working with damage. And then you have elements, right? Every element has its own use, right? Like cold causes enemies to move into attack slower for each stack and will completely freeze for 3 seconds upon reaching 10 stacks. increases crit damage by 10% on the final stack with an additional 5%, or 10% on the first stack with an additional 5% per stack. This effect doubles when frozen. That is like 100% fucking crit damage. That is amazing. That's why I use it, because I have such high crit damage on my Boltor. And then that gets even more dumb with Primary Frostbite. But you have your unique statuses. Impact / Puncture is your basics. They don't really have any, they don't deal less damage to anything, they just deal more damage to things. And then you have things like Cold and Corrosive, where Corrosive will have a negative damage affinity, call it, while Cold won't, but it'll only affect one thing. Because Corrosive is a mixture of two different elements, being electricity and toxin. So it's slightly less effective against something else, while one element is effective against one thing, but not, there's no negative, but it's only good against one type of enemy. And then you have, your multi-shot, which is exactly what it sounds like. You shoot more than one shot per shot. Fire rate's exactly what it sounds like. Magazine, it's magazine capacity. Your reload speed, your accuracy, deviation with aim, and then max deviation. That's, in degrees, so yeah. Automatic trigger, semi-fire, duplex trigger, burst, all those deals. Duplex is the only one that's a little weird. You put down on the trigger, it fires. You let off, it fires. Punch through, 2.2, means that it goes through 2.2 entities. Riven disposition is essentially how powerful is your Riven. It is based off of the popularity of the weapon, and I use the Boltor a lot, so I use a Riven on it. There are a lot of weapons that I use Rivens on, with the just to my, not completely built, but I'm working on it. Vasto. I don't have an Arcane. I'm working on it, I promise. You've got Galvanized Diffusion, Pistol Pestilence, Lethal Torrent, Scourge. You have your 60/60 mods, which I use all of them pretty much. I don't really use the exclusive, 90%. Lethal Torrent's fire rate, multi-shot, crit chance, crit damage. Hornet Strike is your just general damage. Galvanized Shot's wonderful mod. This is a build that I could easily, I need to work on, but we're going to ignore that. But you have these, just general mods like Hornet Strike, and then you get a little more specific with Prime mods or the Galvanized mods, which we'll go over how to get Galvanized later. It'll be fine. And then we have the melee weapons, which I'm not too good at, as you can tell. I enjoy my Pennant. It's my main melee. I need to re-roll my Riven even more. It's not perfect, but I enjoy the Pennant. And so you have combo multipliers with melees, where 12 times combo multiplier, you hit a heavy attack, it does 12 times damage, that type of deal. And you also have mods where it increases your crit chance, or if I could find it, it's somewhere in here. Weeping Wounds, which will increase your status chance per multiplier. So it increases it even more. And you have things like Quickening, and, you experiment with your mods. Gladiator Might, which is a set mod, which you have a couple of those in the game, where the more mods that you have equipped at once, the more power it does, Which leads us to our next deal. This is a Foundry. So, the Foundry is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll still go over it just for those of you who don't understand. Everything has a timer. Everything has a resource. All the resources are gained from specific planets, and it tells you at the bottom right, if you change it to the resource center instead of the night wave, what resources drop from what planets. That is the way to learn it. So you have all these, items. You have resources from open world, which are these ores. You've got prime parts. You got Warframe parts. You got primed Warframe parts. You have guns. You have melees. This is where a lot of time is going to be spent, because you build a lot of stuff in here. And I mean a lot of stuff. I don't have the credits to build stuff, but if I had the credits, I'd be building a bunch of stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have the credits, which is all right. It happens. But you have all these different weapons that are pretty decent. Experiment with them, try them out, have fun with it, is what I would recommend doing. And that's also how you get mastery rank. You upgrade your weapons, you level them up, and then you also do intrinsics, which is railjack and Fury, which we'll tap on slightly a little bit later. We aren't going to go too in-depth on Railjack and Fury because those are entire game modes, and I don't want to go over the game modes individually because, well, that gets rid of the fun of learning what the hell's going on. But you have all these different weapons, and it's quite enjoyable. And that leads us to your mods. You have an entire folder of mods here where you can find all your mods. Now, you know, if I have the credits, I'll do it. I don't think I do, though. Oh, I do. So if you select 4 mods, you can transmute it. Take 4 Revenges. I got an Enduring Strike out of it. I have never seen this mod in my life. Interesting. But, and then if you know, go to Fusion, you know, right now it's plus 17% energy. Rank it up, cost Endo, which is right there, and credits, which is, I'm poor in. Unfortunately, I have a resource booster, though, or credit booster that I got from my daily, so I'm going to be farming credits after this. But you have, you know, upgrade it, and then your cost goes up as well, which is another part of the whole modding deal, is everything has a cost. And so that's what I forgot. I knew I forgot something. So everything has a cost. As you can tell, my Dreamer's Bond is at 14. If I took it off, which I can't, it would decrease that 74 to 60. And it's the same thing with the Pennant. If I took Wise Razor off, it would take that 70, throw it down to 60. Auras and stance mods increase your max amount of mod capacity. But with that being said, you have a bunch of different mods. You've got, you know, your Parazon mods, which are for your little wrist thing. Oh my god, I have a lot of intruders. Holy hell. Jesus. Why? Anyways, I've got, you know, Requiem mods for the Kuva, the Sisters of Parvos, and the Kuva Liches, which again, we'll get to later. But, you know, you have all these different tabs, duplicates, railjack, beasts, robotics, arc melee, arc guns, vehicles, excellence, stance, melee, secondary, primary, augment, excellence, warframe, all. You can see, you know, all your mods here. And then we also have Iotans. Now, what the hell is an Iotan? That's a wonderful question. Iotans are little thingies that do that. That's all they do. They just move. What's the purpose of them? You can scrap them for the Endo, or you can place them in your orbiter and have little decorations. A lot of people like to collect Iotan Anasas because they have so many, make a little Anasa castle. I don't have any Anasas because I scrapped them for Endo, but hey, it is what it is. And that leads us to our next big little feature, which is Arcanes. What the hell are these? That's a wonderful question. I don't know. No. Arcanes are essentially bonuses that you can get on top of what you already have. Like melee exposure on ability cast gains 60% corrosive damage on melee strikes for 25 seconds, stacks up to 240%. On headshot, 15% chance for 180% damage to primary weapons. You know, on Void Sling, drop a mine that tethers up to 10 enemies. And if you don't know what a Void Sling is, cool. Go finish the second dream. And the War Within. That's going to be one of those bits that will, in fact, get spoiled for you. Multi-augmented, you know, I get ability strength on kill. You know, Arcanes, there's multiple types. You've got the Warframes, the Operators, the Amps, the primary, secondary, melee, Kitguns, Zaws, and incomplete, where it's not like a completed one. So, I mean, Kitguns and Zaws, they're modular weapons. So essentially, a Kitgun is a gun that you make out of 3 parts, and a Zaw is a melee you make out of 3 parts, and then they have their own unique arcanes, which then you could also throw like a secondary or primary or melee arcane on top of, essentially giving you 2 arcanes on one pile of weapons. I don't personally use modular weapons that often. If you're a fan of modular weapons, good for you. I don't personally like them, so I don't really use them. But with that being said, let's move on to the companions. Companions are such a fun fact of this game. So you have multiple different types of companions, right? You have your dogs, your infested dogs, your sentinels, which are these floaty guys, your cavats, which are your cats, your moas, which yes, it's the same moa as, you know, or the corpus have, your demon cats. Then you have essentially your pharaoh dogs, being like the Sphinx. They're called Predicites. I don't have any right now. And then you have your hounds. they all have their unique roles, right? Each one of like the Carrier Prime is excellent. Helios with Investigator and as its unique precept and Deconstructor as its weapon is versatile. Helios Sentinel acts as both a lethal guardian and an automatic codex scanner. You know, Nautilus is really good at, you know, keeping your railjack up in the float. The Helios scans things. The Oxalis also scans things. He's like, yeah, he kind of just helps you with fishing and farming open world resources. Carrier's good at getting you resources, even though my carrier's ugly as fuck. The Shade is like your stealth guy who will make you invisible. Your Hounds are your big robot dogs. This is my most used companion because he does a lot of damage, and there are like 3 of him or 6 of them because of Diversified Denial and Duplex Bond. There's like 6 of him that run around at one time. It is hilarious. That's the only reason I have him, and I love him. It's amazing having 6 of these just fucking running around and doing things. But that leads us to the gear. And yeah, if you've picked up on how we're going down, yeah, this will be the last little tab here. So your gear is where you can summon things, right? Or you can place down glyphs or air supports, tranks, fishing spheres, plasma drills for mining, you know, fishing, tranquilizing animals, specters, which are things that you can spawn in, energy restores, you know, Archwing launchers, arc gun deployers, Necramech summons, synthesis scanners, or Liach pods, which are for a quest. But you have all these different types of gears. You'll learn them as you go, you know, like you have broad spectrum baits, you have the keys, which are for Deimos, which you'll learn. You'll learn. That one I'm not actually going to go over. You'll learn what the Deimos is. Wolf beacons, which I actually need to use that. You know, stuff like that. And then we have emotes, which are exactly what they sound like. I mean, like... yeah. There's a guitar in this game. It's sick. It's called the Shazam. It's like 60 platinum. But then we have the vehicles. Vehicles. They're called vehicles, and it's just roll with me. So we have Archwing, then we have heavy weapons, then we have K drives. No, I don't own any K drives. I don't want any K drives. And the Necramech. So, right now, Archwing will probably be your most used. Especially if you're a newer player. Just trust me. You're gonna hate Archwing. Just thug it out. Finish all your Archwing missions. Archwing is essentially you fly around in space and you kill things. It's pretty self-explanatory. Then you have arc guns and arc melees. I need to gather up all the arc melees because, frankly, I really don't want to, you know, deal with it. I don't like leveling up arc melees. They suck. And then you can get heavy weapons when you reach tier 5 with Fortuna, where you can, you know, bring the gun down with you. It's that simple. I have a Kuva Grappler that I use a lot on exterminates that I want to just burn through real quick. I'll just use the Kuva Grappler because I've got a ribbon on it as well, but I need to that one too. And then we have Necramechs. We have the Void Rake, which is the better version, and then we have the Bone Widow, which is the inferior version. You will need one of the two for the quest of the new war. There's one more requirement for the new war, which we will get to a little bit later. But with that being said, welcome to the market. There's going to be a lot in here, so let's sort through it. Okay. For now, well, I can't speak English. For now, let's just go look at the Warframes. You know, you have Warframes, and this will actually tell you where to get those blueprints. Of course, I have, you know, hide items without blueprints, and if I hide mastered, that's literally just equinox. Because these are the only Warframes where you can actually buy the blueprint. Surprise, surprise. But when you click on the Warframe, it tells you where to get them. Cool. Ambulus, Pluto, Forward and Infested Invasion Assassin, assassinations, Raptors on Europa, Nightwave. And then if it's a more complex Warframe to get, like, where is she? She's like the complex Warframe. There she is. Octavia's main blueprints awarded from the Octavia's Anthem quest. Acquire the chassis from the music puzzle on Lua, Neuroptics blueprint and Terrara, Deimos, and the systems blueprint by Oricon resource caches and Plato Lua. Not too difficult. That's kind of just how it is. Octavia's not very hard to get, although I really wish that she was a more enjoyable Warframe. But, and then like Mirage is, you know, blueprints for Mirage's components are acquired from the Hidden Messages quest. Protea, you know, Deadlock Protocol, and then are required via rank 3 rewards, and the Granum Void blueprints are depend on the type of Granum Crown used, so you have 3 tiers. Each tier correlates to one of the parts. Necros is Blephantis on Magnesidium. I still need 1 part for him so I can subsume him. It is what it is. Why is this blueprint 100,000? I could not tell you. Limbo is from the Limbo Theorem quest. That's how the Warframes work. Weapons. Not all weapon blueprints are in the market, right? Acquire the Evensong blueprint from the Brutus Uranus or from Mortis in the Drifter camp on Earth. Player must complete the Jade Shadows quest to access this content. Exceltra drops from Demolisher Infestation on Grenier Galleons. Akin Brunt, Himlab, Dojo, Chipper in the Drifter camp. Bounties, Drifter camp. Here's the blueprint, tells you 2 Furiouses are needed. Vicarious, another Demolisher Infestations from Disruptions. You know, it tells you all that you need for the weapons. Equipments are your, you know, affinity boosters, your Shazens, your, you know, equipment. Stuff that you don't necessarily need, but they may help you a little bit. Arcade adapters, Archwing weapon slots, which I need. And all that jazz. You know, different glyphs, Archwing launcher segment, Argon crystals, companion slots, component, and armament slots. You know, crew member slots, which you don't really need those. Codex scanners, Corpus Articula. You know, you get all the Shazens and stuff. The stuff that you don't really need. Companions being, you know, whoop-de-doo, it's companions. You know, like, yeah, companions cover companions. Then you have bundles, which are your big old bundles where you get a bunch of stuff in them, and, you know, sometimes you get plat with them, sometimes you don't, sometimes you get, you know, damn, even in the Prec she caked up. You get the Ember Heirloom skin, and then you have Tenno Gen, which are only buyable with actual money. However, these are player-made skins where you pay money, and a percentage of the money that you spend on these skins actually goes back to the creator of the skin. And then you have premium bundles like, you know, the Ember Heirloom, Seer Collection, Dante Chronicles. These are really easy ways to get quick plat, and, you know, they're, for the most part, better ways to get what you need. You know, you get, you know, the Prime Accesses, which are your really expensive ones, you know, where you get, you know, if you get the super complete one, you get 3 months of affinity and resource boosters and nearly 4,000 plat, you know. You get some bonkers stuff going on. And then you got like the TennoCon 2024 digital packs, which that happens every year. You get the TennoCon. Then you have Prime Resurgence, which is Primes come back and they come and go. And the Resurgence is when the Primes actually come back. So you have limited time to get them. Go get Aya from somewhere. Go get Aya and then go get the Warframes. You trade the Aya for the relic, like, let's say, you know, where is it? I wanted Ember Prime's blueprint. Cool, I would go and I would get a bunch of these relics, and I would get Ember Prime blueprints. That's essentially how it goes.
In your own time.
And that leads us 35 minutes in to what the hell's going on in the Starchart. Yeah. That's how long it took us to get just to the Starchart. I haven't even begun to explain what's going on in the Starchart. Don't worry about the red. We'll handle that later. But what the hell's going on here? Fantastic question. Why is there a thingy here? What is this? What are resource drones? What is that red icon? What are these tabs up here? Fantastic question, all of them, let me get to. One, you have your, public friends only invite solo. It's okay, that I'm not going over that. That's self-explanatory. But then you have all your planets right in here. When you finish all the planets and do every node, you get Steel Path, which we'll get to later when we reach the more experienced part of the video, where it's like, yeah, no, this is like you're past a lot of deal. But you have all these tabs up here, which we will go over, even though you don't have a reason to know Archon hunts or sorties, because this is a complete guide. We're just going to hit it all at once, so I don't have to backtrack. Archon hunts are something that you unlock after the new war, where you fight an Archon, and they give you an Archon shard. The yellow Archon shards are the best. Don't at me. I like my my parkour velocity. It's really, really fun. They're a little bit of a challenge. You get empowered enemies, you can't respawn, and you can't use consumables. That's just how it is. You finish it, and then you get the reward. You either get something decent, or, you get a Riven mod instead of the legendary core that you really, 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 really want. Then you have sorties, which are smaller versions of Archon hunts. You just have 3 missions, lower level, no limits on them. Finish them, get the possible reward. Then you have Void Fissures, which are your fashion of getting your primes. You've got tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I call this tier 6 because they're open to all of them. I normally do tier 6 fissures just because I get to use all of my relics instead of just a single era of relics. Then we have Syndicates, which, this is where you use Sanctuary Onslaught and Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, like I was talking about earlier. Bolt is very good for Elite Sanctuary Onslaught. What Elite Sanctuary Onslaught is kind of just, you go in, you fight a bunch of enemies, go through a portal, go to a new area, fight a bunch of enemies. It's the way that you get, the Lado Vandal, Cora, Bratton Vandal, really good for XP. I highly recommend doing Sanctuary Onslaught to level up your Warframes, and Elite Sanctuary Onslaught for your weapons, because you need a rank 30 Warframe for your Elite Sanctuary Onslaught. And then you have your, missions for your factions, which are like boring. Then you have invasions, which I'm spending too much time doing and I'm really not enjoying, because I need to do invasions. It is as simple as that. You get Field Drawn, Mutalist Lad V, Coordinates, Mutagen Masses, Detonite Injectors, all that stuff is what you get from doing invasions. You need those for the clan items. Then you have alerts, which are, right now we've got depleted reload, which is minus magazine capacity plus reload speed. Tells you where the nightmare missions are, the Kuva siphon missions are. There's a lot of nightmare missions going on right now. The arbitration, which again we'll get to later. Then we have our quests, which I only have 1 quest available. And then we have events, which is where they'll show events. And then you have all the planets. Every planet's a little different. They've all got different missions. And I'm not going to go in depth on all the missions, but we will go in depth on who Doko Obum is when we get there. But that's the gist of the star chart. And then you have... God, he's so fucking annoying. And then you have Railjack, which is, your big planets. You fly around in space and you go fight people. And then you have... That's not what I wanted to do. And then you have Duviri, which is sort of the same, but a lot different. And where you have this separate, roguelike game, which you unlock after doing the Duviri Paradox, which is a fantastic quest. It's kind of long, though. And then we have Syndicates. And that leads us to Syndicates. What the hell are Syndicates? So you have 6 main Syndicates, right? These are your primary 6 Syndicates that you get by pledging to them. And they give you standing. I recommend starting these as soon as possible. They give you rewards for weapons, Warframes, those augments that we were talking about, and yes, they're all different. It's kind of dumb. You get... Oh, man. You get relic packs from here, you got weapons in here, you got, Smoke Shadow, which it just doesn't exist. And all that. You get specific rewards for each of them. And as you can see, I have +5 with these guys, but -2 for these guys, because New Loka hates Steel Meridian and Cephalon Suda. I started with Cephalon Suda. Suda also hates Red Veil. Red Veil also hates Suda and Arbiters. And then Parent Sequence hates Steel Meridian and Arbiters, and, well, you see how that goes. It is kind of what it is. So the New Loka Red Veil and Parent Sequence all hate me. If I remember correctly, the only one that you can actually, you know, rank up with is Red Veil if you go this route, but you'll have to rank up Red Veil through Steel Meridian, and that's a pain in the ass. Then you have your Cetus, which is your Ostron, which is your bounties for daytime, and then your Quills, which are for Eidolons, which are essentially what Eidolons are big old nighttime bosses that you gotta go kill. That is the simplest way that I can put what Eidolons are, and that's actually how you get amps and the such, and Eidolon shards. So we'll end up, you know, talking about that a little bit later, but just remember that the Ostron and the Quills are those guys. Then you have Fortuna, which is Solaris United. Then you have Vox Solaris, and then you have the Vent Kids. Fuck the Vent Kids. Nobody likes the Vent Kids. But Solaris United is the open world for Fortuna. Vox Solaris is your big boss for Fortuna, and the Vent Kids are little shits who want to skateboard around. Then you have the Necrolisk, which I only have the caveat rank 5, which they are your Whispers in the Walls faction. Then you have the Entrati, which is your Deimos open world. And then you have your Necroloid, which is your Deimos bigger bosses, where you get your Void Ring and your stuff like that. Then you have the Chrysalith and the Steadfast, or the Holdfast, sorry. And these guys are your Zeramon bounties, where they aren't actually open worlds, which I fucking love. It's the same thing with the caveat. Their bounties aren't open world, they're just missions or challenges. It's amazing. And then you have Cephalon Samaras, which
creatures you have immortalized would cry out in thanks.
Yeah, I really don't like them. And all Cephalon Samaras is about scanning people, and it's like, bruh, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. It's awful. And then we have this, the Conclave. So you remember how I said this game had PvP? This game has PvP, and that's the Conclave. Nobody plays it. Nobody cares for it. So yeah, that's how it is. Now, we're reaching spoiler territory here. So if you don't want to know what the Tenno are, or, you know, the big twist of Warframe at the second dream, I recommend leaving now. Go skip to the next chapter, and no, don't even skip to the next chapter. The next chapter is going to be Eidolon Shards. Skip to the Liches Sisters chapter, and you won't even have to worry about it. But with that being said, this is the Tenno. For those of you who are still here, that either means that you don't care that this is a spoiler and you want to learn anyways, which, hi, yeah, you get a Tenno. Or that means that you already know what this is, which means, wow, you have been dealing with my dumbass for 43 minutes of knowledge that you probably knew. I gotta thank you very much for that. Anyways, you have your amps, which are, you know, your gun for your operator, and of course you have Arcanes and amp Arcanes, which help with power, and then you have focus trees. Alrighty. So we have Zenuric. Zenuric is your energy-based Warframe or focus tree, where it's very energy-based. Like Wellspring gives you energy, Void Siphons about your operator, energy regeneration, second abilities, crowd control. Then we have Vazarin. Vazarin is your healing tree. First 4 revives are instantaneous, increases operator health and armor, operator health regeneration is increased, Void Regen, Void Mode starts healing at 10 health per second, increasing by 10 per second up to a maximum of 50. Squad Regen, when Void Regen reaches its maximum, it is applied to squad members within affinity range for 50 seconds. And then Void Snare, second ability, launches a projectile that spins on a Void trap on impact on 2, make it a detonate in flight, trap lasts 6 seconds. Guardian Shell, use your first ability to manifest a barrier on the operator and allies in affinity range. It is invulnerable for 4 seconds when first created, and damage inflicted while it's invulnerable will be added to its base health for 400. So it's essentially Overguard. Unaru, essentially, you know, knockdown. You stand, you ignore getting knocked down. I'm not a fan of Unaru. I haven't really used it very much, but I hear it's pretty decent. So if you want to start with Unaru and have, you know, bonus armor and the chance to ignore being stunned, go for it. Madurai, that's your damage-based ones. You got increased energy for the amps, increased energy regeneration for the amps. Then you have amp critical damage for 20 seconds with the operator. Physical damage and operator damage increased by 30%. Contamination wave emits a void wave and makes enemies 50% more vulnerable to damage. And then Void Strike consumes all energy to do additional damage for 8 seconds. Naramon is your melee-based one. It's all about melee here. You get extra melee bonuses and the such. Levitating enemies take more weapon damage, so, you know, multiplier gets turned into amp damage. That type of deal. And I'm sure you noticed, well, what the hell are these waybounds? Wonderful question. Your waybounds are your passives. So essentially, when you get the Eidolon Shards, the Brilliant Eidolon Shards, which we'll go over how to get those right after this, you get to max out your passives. And when you max out your passives, that little last one with the little dots on each angle are your waybounds. And essentially, waybounds are open to everything. When you unlock them all, you have them all. So it ends up making you a hell of a lot more powerful. With that being said, let's go over how the hell do you get an Eidolon Shard? This big mamma jam is how you get Eidolon Shards. Well, not really this one. There's 3 tiers of it. The tier list is lowest. Essentially, you have to capture this guy, which means that you need 4 Eidolon marks. I will not be going into depth on how to do Eidolon hunting, because I am sure as hell not the motherfucker who should be doing that. However, moral of the story is, kill the Eidolon Terror List, or capture it with your lures, then go fight the Gauntlet, and then go fight the Hydras. They get progressively harder. As you can see on his bicep there, you get this weird irradiated looking thingy. You shoot those after depleting a shield with your Tenno. That's how you kill them. And then you capture them with the Eidolon lures by killing Vulnbalists near them. Capture, rinse and repeat, and you get brilliant Eidolon Shards and just Eidolon cores as well. They'll help you. But with that being said, let's go on to the Liches and Sisters. To all those that skipped the spoiler bit, welcome back. To those of you who watched it, not welcome back to you. You were here beforehand. Anyways, this is a Kuva Lich. As you can see, he has my Frost's head on his shoulder. He has a unique gun called the Kuva Seer, and he kind of just looks stupid. Sometimes they look cool. Sometimes that's like a closed off mask and he looks cool. You can see a percentage right there. You can see his weapon, his immunity, his resistances, his birthplace, his progenitor, which was Frost Prime, and his quirk. I don't know what the Bloodhound quirk does. Don't ask. But this is where those Requiem mods come into play. You put all 3 of them in the right order, attack them, and then you kill them. Now, to get this, you need to do a level 20 or higher, Grineer mission. Which means you need to do Cassini or up, essentially, is what you need to do. Is Cassini or anything on Saturn and up within the star chart. For your Sisters of Parvos, which are a little bit different, the Sisters of Parvos, while the Kuva Liches are Corpus, the Sisters of Parvos are Corpus, and they have Tenet weapons instead. To get the Sisters of Parvos, it is slightly different. You have to do a tier 3 Random Void after doing the Deadlock Protocol. I normally like to run Hydra. It's just the most quick and efficient. It is what it is. When you kill them, you get sent to Railjack, where you will fight them in a Railjack mission, kill them in the Railjack mission, and you can spare them and have them as a companion, or you can kill them and take their gun. That is how the Liches and Sisters work. But with that being said, let's go to the path to the New War. There's a few requirements for the New War. And one of them is pretty much finishing the entirety of the star chart, including doing Mott on Void. Yes, they expect you to go all the way through the entire star chart to get to Mott, to do the Chains of Harrow, and the Sacrifice, and the Rising Tide, and getting a Necramech, and getting a Railjack, which is the Rising Tide. So that's how you get to do the New War. You need an Amp, which you get from Cetus. You need a Railjack, which you get from the Rising Tide, and you need a Void Raid, which you get from Deimos. So, how do you get Railjack up? It's easy. or what is Railjack? Sorry, let me reword that. What is Railjack? 4 people, 1 big ass ship goes through an area. That's really all it is. I fucking love Railjack and I wish it was better. It is unfortunately not better. But man, oh man, I wish. And then you have Void Rigs. Of course, technically you could get, you know, you could get the, okay, I guess just doesn't exist. There's a pack for it to where you can get the Void Rig and the fucking Railjack together and you spin flat on it. I don't recommend doing that. The Railjack is really easy to get. Don't do that. Not a good idea. But that's that. And with that being said, remember, you have something called, you saw them earlier, intrinsics for Railjack and Duviri. You rank these up, you get mastery rank. Each tier is about 1500 mastery rank. Yeah. That is 15 levels of weapon. Right there. On one upgrade. So when you're lower level, I recommend doing some Railjack public. Or getting Railjack when you can. But that means now you're done with the new world. So what now? You got 2 more quests to do. The Angels of Zaramon, which unlocks you the Zaramon, and the Man with, or the Whispers in the Walls quest, which unlocks you the Sanctum Anatomica. What now? That's a fantastic question. You have now unlocked Steel Path, assuming, big assumption, that you have finished all of the missions on all of the planets. If you have done that, you have unlocked Steel Path. Do not hop right into Steel Path. You will die and you will not have a good time. So what do? Well, you need to prep for it. How do I recommend prepping for it? You remember those arbitrations from earlier? That's how you get galvanized mods. That's what I would do. I would do arbitrations. Go get your galvanized mods. Go get your, you know, other mods that you need. Rolling guard and, you know, adaptation, preparation if you need it. All of that stuff to make your Steel Path life that much easier. And then what I would do is I would run missions like Circulus or Yavarium or Tiana Pass. And what I would do is I would get Arcanes from those. Why? Well, Tiana Pass can give you secondary encumber, which is probably one of my, if not my most used secondary arcane. And Circulus and Yavarium will give you primary frostbite, which as it's been over, is my most used primary arcane, given what it does. And when you're done with that, you should be ready for the most part for Steel Path. Now there's other ways of getting arcanes, so we're just going to talk about those. One of them is for the players who weren't here, the Plains of Eidolon, Nighttime, fight the Terrorless, Hydraless, Gauntlet. They will drop arcanes. Steel Path. You go here. Where is it? It is called Orphix. I know it's somewhere here. Give it to me. Orphix. That will also give you arcanes. The just running fucking Steel Path will give you arcanes as Acolyte spawn to hunt you down. And that's how you get your primary Merciless Deadhead and Dexterity and your secondary primary Merciless Deadhead. And then you have, you know, in Deimos, if you go to the Sanctum Anatomica, you can turn in Unwanted Ribbons for Phosphor, and then you could make Arcane Packs, so you get new Arcanes. So what now? Let's set up your gears, what we need to do. So let's finally come back to my Frost build and explain why I do. So, first things first, I have Nourish on him. That is something that Willie will end up going over right after this, actually. So yeah, we're going to go over Archon Shards, and then we're going to hit Helmith and Archons, and boom. But that is my ability because I get extra viral and also more energy as my Frost is very energy extensive. I see Avalanche for Overguard because as we've been over, Overguard is very powerful. It is another way of getting iframes. I like speed, so I have Rush on him. Precision Intensify for more overguard and just armor strip. I enjoy having armor strip. You don't necessarily need it. It's nice to have against the Grineer. Extra range because freezing an entire room is pretty powerful. Efficiency because if I didn't have this on, I'd be out of energy within one cast of Avalanche. Prime Flow because I'd be out of energy off of one cast of Avalanche. Augur Reach because extra range, Biting Frost for the extra crit, and Blind Rage for the extra damage. That's realistically the only reason why I have them the way that I do. And then I have Arcane Avenger for the extra crit chance and Molt Augmented for the extra strength. Yeah, I go in on strength. But I don't have much health because of Overguard. So I'm able to run around my Frost and I don't care. And same thing goes for my primary. Because I have so much crit damage and I have Galvanized Scope, which is absolutely ridiculous, I inevitably end up having like 90 to 8 or 80, 90, 100, 120 crit chance with like a 10 times crit multiplier, and it has punch through, and it has, you know, a good like 7 shots coming out of the Incarnon form, if not more, and I'm dealing extra damage per status. So I'm kind of just annihilating things, and I'm stripping their armor with corrosive because I like personally having corrosive. It's not needed. I could probably run gas realistically, but I don't because my ribbon has toxin on it. So I just run it the way that it is. And it works perfectly. This is something where you need to experiment with it. Your builds are going to be different from my builds. So you'll need to experiment with your builds to get them where you want to be. With that being said, let's get on to where to get Archon Shards. There are 2 ways to get Archon Shards. You have the Archon Hunts, Amber Archon Shard, +1 reward pool item. And then the Sanctum Anatomica, where you have literally 3 different ways of getting Archon Shards. You have the Netra Cell Searches, you have Elite Archimedia, and Deep Archimedia. The Netra Cell Searches are the easiest. The Deep Archimedia are essentially game modes where you are forced to use specific gear to get the rewards and go under specific challenges. And the Elite Archimedia is that, but 100 levels higher and a lot harder. Those are your main ways of getting Arcanes. Well, where the hell do you use Arcanes? Fantastic question. You guys ask wonderful fucking questions, and I love it. Let's talk about it. This is where you use it, is the Helmith, which is also where I subsume Warframes. So if you have a base version of a Warframe, you can subsume them and you get 1 ability out of them, and then you can throw it on any other Warframe. You damn well please. Under most circumstances, if you try throwing a mod like Eclipse onto Octavia, you cannot unless you replace her 4, because you cannot have 2 damage buffing abilities on 1 Warframe. With that being said, though, here's Archon Shards. They have different purposes. As you can tell, I have 30% parkour velocity, and they're not Tau Forged. I want them Tau Forged. I have extra casting speed and primary status chance. I could realistically remove this and throw in, you know, extra energy or health regeneration. Actually, I might do energy actually. And then you have Topaz, which are your specific ones where you can merge 2 of the main ones, right? So because you have your primary colors and then your secondary colors. That's kind of how it works. You merge 2 of the primary colors, you get a secondary color which has different stats, which are a lot more specific. And frankly, a hell of a lot weirder. I'm not going to lie. Some of these get a little too specific. Like, Toxin status effects deal 30% more damage, recover 2 health, gain 10% ability damage on status or enemies affected by corrosive status. Huh? Why? Increased mass stacks of corrosive makes sense, but you have stuff like that, which is where you use your Archon Shards and your Helmet. But I'm sure there's one thing that you noticed about my bolt board. What was that weird thing on the right of it? Again, asking good fucking questions. I'm liking it. I'm picking up on it. This is your Incarnon system. Now, there's a few Incarnon guns in this game. They're adding them pretty frequently. This is why my Boltor is the way that it is and is very powerful. Essentially, what the Incarnon system is you have 4 buffs, and as you get headshots, you can transform your gun into a different type of gun. Like, for instance, the Boltor Prime becomes essentially a fully automatic shotgun that, burns through ammo. Or the Strunt Prime becomes a rocket launcher. Or the Bratton becomes explosive. And you get, increased base damage by 2, 20% ammo efficiency for 5 seconds on kill. Increased base damage by 4, channeled ability active, 4 punch through, 40 accuracy, reload speed, increased base magazine capacity, which I need that one now. Actually, no, that'll just hurt. Increase base crit chance by 10%, base status by 10, or just status, or just crit. I do both because it's nice and makes it a little more even. But that's Incarnon. Now, where the hell do you get Incarnon guns? Fantastic question again. Jesus Christ, you guys are good at this shit. Steel Path. In here, the circuit. I don't have them selected right now because I didn't like this week's path, but on Monday it resets, and then I'll be ended up getting the dual Icors and all that jazz. I haven't done Steel Path circuit this week. I haven't cared for it. But then you can also build them from Cavallero in the Chrysalith. He will have 4 or 5. He has the Phalarx, the Inodim, the Latum, the Praetos, and the Finmore. 5. Yeah, 5. Shit, am I doing that right? 2 melees, 2 primaries. Yeah, 5. I am tired. But that's where you can get Incarnons, and his Incarnons are a little different. You can't actually get the max rank Incarnon unless you own each section of Incarnon, so you would need a primary Incarnon, secondary, and tertiary Incarnon. Which leads us to, like, well, now that I've done everything, what the hell do I do? That's a fantastic question. Well, there's a few things that you can do. For one, you can go here, go into the Codex. You can scan enemies with Helios, or you can yourself scan them, which I don't recommend doing. I feel like that's really fucking boring. I don't like scanning enemies. I have my Demo or my Helios do it for me. But you can do that. You could become a trading mogul, where you just essentially farm things only to trade them and sell them, which is also very fucking boring, in my opinion. If that's what rocks fancy though, go for it. You could go and do Kuva Liches, right? And try to get cool ass Liches like actually this guy was pretty fucking cool. This guy, the coolest looking fucking Lich I have.
That's how this works. Questions?
He's got the mask and everything. I want to get a cool ass looking Kuva Shakur Lich. But unfortunately, I lost one of my favorite Liches named Mundum Rook in the transfer. Mundum Rook shall forever relinquish adversaries. What? No, does he not? Interesting. So you can only have 150. That's new. Or do the same thing with sisters. Try to get cool sisters or get the weapons, all that jazz. You could go and just rank out all the weapons in the game. Go do MR and get to MR or MR34, or go get the rare guns like the Bratton and Lado Vandal. Stuff like that. I am actually pretty close to being done with this shit. Jesus. I play this game too much. Do MR filler type stuff. Or, you can go my route of how I went as I've gotten later in the game, and I enjoy making fashion frames. I made a fire-themed Frost and a... Where is she? And a ice-themed Ember. Because I thought it would be fun. So I made a fire-themed Frost and an ice-themed Ember. Just for funsies. And that's pretty much it. That's the complete guide of Warframe, man. If there's anything I missed, leave a comment below. Tell me what I missed, but that's pretty much it. That's everything. Ooh, my voice hurts. God, is this how a teacher feels? Jesus. Man, I hope you guys enjoyed, though. I hope you guys stick around. And hopefully you guys watch my content that isn't just Warframe. That's what I'm really hoping for. Because I like playing Warframe, sure, but I play it a little too much. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all that jazz. Have a good one. Deuces.